So a lot of people, when I talk to them about what I cover, or I talk about mass surveillance and censorship and digital rights and things, will say, "Well, I have nothing to hide. Why would I care? I have nothing to hide. Um, all these companies have my data," and I understand it feels really like futile almost to fight this. And they're like, "Well, look, I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. So what does it matter if the government harvests mass data? Corporations already have so much data on me anyway, and it's not really affecting my life, right?" I have a three-part series on my YouTube channel about data brokers that I think you guys should watch, especially the history of data brokers. You'll realize that actually data brokers have a lot more to do with your life than you would think. And a lot of people's lives are already being shaped by data brokers. They just don't realize it. They just don't realize that this is directly affecting the healthcare that they get, or maybe they missed out on an apartment, right? And they don't really know, but maybe like was because of the data that the management company was able to harvest on you, and they chose a different one. Like see examples of this all the time. So it could just be getting that apartment, getting healthcare, getting an auto loan, the car. Like there's so many things that are available, presented to different people in different ways, or people being targeted in different advertising that like affects their life. That's all to say, like, data brokers actually have a big effect on your life. The amount of data that's harvested on you really does affect your life in ways that you probably don't know. But I thought there was a couple posts that I saw recently that was just this like really good debunking of this idea that I don't have anything to hide. I know I just talked about this, but we'll just go back to this post from the Ludlow Institute that says, "I don't care about privacy." Translation: I don't realize my digital footprint is permanent and will one day be judged by future standards and norms, and what's acceptable today could lead to ostracism, imprisonment, or even put my life at risk. So that's just to say, like, the current political climate now, the current situation in America, like things that are currently happening can change. We've seen already just in the past 10 years how much norms have changed, how much politics has changed, like the government has changed. And especially if we move further towards authoritarianism, like a lot can change. And the things you say today, or the things that you say, the views that you hold today, could be used against you in the future. So, you know, just consider that. Now, here was this really good video by Whitney Webb, who's a really great investigative journalist who does a lot on like national security stuff and cyber policy stuff. Um, she was on Glenn Beck's show, and I'll pull up the video here. Basically, Glenn Beck is like, "I don't have anything to hide," and she gives a really good explanation of why that's stupid. Um, okay, sorry, I haven't been looking at the chat, but let's see. Three parts. I'm gonna no, just lots of parts. I'm just gonna put these clips on my YouTube channel, so that's what I'm talking about. And somebody saying, "What are we, a bunch of Asians?" Yeah, I know. People being like, "What are we, China?" I get it, like, but really, in this case, we haven't. As I made clear in my video, which you could watch on my channel about China's surveillance system, um, we have not had the level of sort of mass surveillance and privacy violations that China has on the internet. We've had always a very open internet in America and the rest of the world. So it would be a drastic change to enact a Chinese style internet in America. Most importantly, because the American government would, I think, do a lot more nefarious things than the Chinese government is probably doing to their citizens. But that's because we have very different governments. Um, okay, so let's watch what Whitney Webb had to say, because I thought she gave just a really good explanation of this idea of like why you should care.
Play the devil's advocate that you hear every time we take a bad step towards more digital surveillance. Well, I don't have anything to hide. I don't really care. I don't have anything to hide. Well, why is that, a kindergarten answer?
Well, I would argue because a lot of these companies that are engaged in these mass surveillance, or the contractors really that are engaged in mass surveillance, don't ultimately have just watching what you're doing as being enough for them. They're
Mhm.
ultimately interested in things like predictive analytics and predictive policing. So, based on your behavior now and your behavior in the past, they want to use artificial intelligence to determine what you may do in the future. And in the case of predictive policing, that would be, well, we've determined that you may commit a crime in the future. And so we're going to, send you to a court-ordered physician, or, issue house arrest to stop crime before it happens, essentially,
Minority
is
Report.
where a lot of these companies, well, yeah, and unfortunately it is that. And there's a lot of companies that have made massive inroads in that type of technology, even though it's been hugely discredited. There's several companies. I think the most notorious at this point is called, or was called, Predpol. They've since rebranded, but they were less accurate than a coin toss, and people were being, deprived of their liberty because of an algorithm that was hugely inaccurate. And ultimately, if you look in the UK, for example, some of these algorithms for facial recognition have been rolled out, even though they've been shown over there too to be hugely inaccurate. And there's no interest in changing vendors, even when this inaccuracy is demonstrated. So to me, that says that their goal is to have us induce obedience by the fact that you're being watched all the time, and anything you may do could be used against you, even if you're not doing anything wrong now. An algorithm could determine that certain, errant behaviors warrant you being added to a list of some type. And actually, Larry Ellison of Oracle, who is one of the main funders of Tony Blair's institute, that's one of the biggest pushers for digital ID in the UK, said this at an Oracle shareholder meeting, that, we're recording and surveilling everything, and citizens will be on their best behavior
Terrifying.
because they have to, essentially,
And
paraphrase.
That's that clip that we just watched previously.
the fact that Donald Trump is listening to that guy is terrifying to me. I mean, he has put some people around him on
I love that, like, Glenn Beck is like a voice of reason on this issue.
this tech board that are not friends of freedom and liberty. They're just not. Larry Ellison is leading that pack.
Yeah, a lot of them are, I would argue, overtly and also covertly globalist. You have people, in that network you just mentioned, serving, for example, on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, which is, a well-known closed-door meeting, globalist conflab. And unfortunately, I think some of them anyway, have been able to characterize their policies as libertarian, for example, even though some of those same oligarchs are on record saying that the free market is for losers. If you want to get rich, build a monopoly. And build monopolies, they have, unfortunately. But I think, again, this is what I was saying earlier about the World Economic Forum. There's an effort to sell this, since they couldn't sell it from the left. The goal now is to try and sell it somehow from the right. And to try and frame it under metrics and dialectics that'll be more appealing to the group that was most against these policies just a few years ago. And unfortunately, with AI and all of that, it could happen if people aren't vigilant.
I think that's so. First of all,
Play the devil's.
It's very funny. It's very funny that, like, that, I mean, I don't know, like, ignore the, like, globalist whatever stuff there, but, like, it is funny that, like, Glenn Beck is kind of at least more principled on this issue than a lot of people on the left. But I think that she just did a really good job of explaining why you should care about mass surveillance. Like, what she says, like, they're not just going to stop at watching you. That's not the sole goal. Like, it's not that there's a lot of, like, weird dog whistles of, like, I mean, look, guys, this is Glenn Beck. Okay, it's a right-wing show. I hate that. I'm sorry. but I just wanted to show what Whitney had to say. I think ignore all that stuff, but just listen to what Whitney said. And also just, I do think she makes a good point. Again, she's framing it for a right wing audience, but like these people that in tech that claim to be libertarian are not libertarians. Okay, they're monopolists. They're like, I mean, I think Peter Thiel calls himself a monarchist. These are not people that believe in the free and open markets. Like they want monopolies, and they will do anything to defend monopolies and monopolistic power like Meta and Google and stuff. And so anyway, that all that stuff aside, I think the point that she makes in the beginning where she's talking about surveillance and these predictive algorithms and these things that these companies want to harvest and use these surveillance things for is a really good point. Like they're not just collecting this data to collect the data. They're collecting the data so that people can do things with it. And those things are generally pretty bad. So, just in terms of collecting data, I thought that this was a good post from the same account who's probably who knows if this is like a right winger guy or whatever. So a lot of these accounts, unfortunately, guys, that are like libertarian people because they're the only people that like document a lot of this stuff. So sorry, um, but anyway, there's this guy who's talking about the digital ID in the UK, and just days after Keir Starmer praised, India's rollout as a model. Cyber thieves have stolen an entire database of 815 million people's names, addresses, IDs, and bank details. They're selling it for $80,000 a pop. And I just think this shows like India rolled out this system, and here we see literally within days it's hacked and being used for profit. So it's just an example of kind of how silly it is to act like these systems are secure. So one thing that Whitney mentioned in that clip that I showed initially is facial recognition and how you can be denied. Facial recognition systems are increasingly being used to deny people's services or track them or accuse them of crimes they haven't committed yet. And I came across this video of a monk actually trying to pay, where this monk's welfare payment was denied because of a facial recognition system. He had to stick on eyebrows to kind of be recognized. So let's watch the video.
Welfare payment failed due to facial recognition technology, so he was forced to stick on black tape as eyebrows. Okay, even we found it a bit funny. But we've done some digging, and the whole situation is more serious than it seems. Thailand's digital welfare ID uses facial recognition to authenticate people during transactions, like using a person's face as a barcode. This woman, who reportedly travelled a long distance, was actually denied food after the intrusive system failed to recognise her. The UK government recently announced plans to digitise people's driving licences, and we use facial recognition checks to verify people. Make no mistake, a digital ID is very different to a physical ID. At their worst, they can be misused for mass surveillance, to curb people's liberties, and can be abused for the tracking, targeting, or differential treatment of marginalised groups. That's why we're campaigning to enshrine your right to use non-digital ID in law. This monk's welfare payment failed due to facial recognition technology.
Anyway, I just think that is a really good example of, somebody in multiple examples, not just the monk. It sounds like the woman too, being unable to get access to services because of, because their facial recognition uh, failed, and basically, hold on, basically. Yeah, they weren't able to get these like essential food and payments and things like that. It sort of reminded me of this other piece that I saw from just 2 days ago on the Daily Mail. Daily Mail. Sorry about all the ads. This website is unreadable. Oh my God. Okay, let's try it again. The Daily Mail. It is my favorite website in some ways. Okay, well, it's like, how are we supposed to read this website with all this stuff? Okay, let me read the headline. Anyway, basically the headline says innocent shoppers accused of wrongdoing by AI system. Warnings over Face Watch in stores like Sainsbury, Budgens, and B&M. So these AI cameras that these retailers have installed in stores. Let's see how to get it there. Can we like pause this somehow? So these AI cameras that the police have installed in stores, that retailers have installed in stores, um, are not accurate. Surprise, surprise. These cameras were supposed to prevent shoplifting, but they're actually flagging, it sounds like, tons of people every single week, including more than 2,000 a day in the week leading up to Christmas, as crime suspects. And a lot of these people are very much not crime suspects. They're just, they're just average Christmas shoppers. So the story talks about Face Watch, which is just one of these biometric face scanning tools, that sends an alert to staff when there's a person of interest that's on a watch list that enters the store. This is a huge invasion of privacy, obviously. But, this one customer, Jenny, for instance, talks about being put on a watch list and barred from returning to her local store in Birmingham after being falsely accused of stealing a bottle of wine. Of course, the company apologized and blamed human error. But this is crazy. Like, these people are just being barred from shopping. She says a security official blocked her on the way into the store, telling her, quote, "You're on Face Watch as you've obviously stolen something. You've come up on my phone." Jenny turned around and said, "I've never stolen anything in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. I was humiliated. And I think when someone says, if you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to worry about. If you look at my situation, you've got everything to worry about." And yeah, this is just a perfect example of everything that we're talking about, is that not only can you be denied services, you can be targeted, you can be blocked from doing things. Like, people's appearance change, especially, I mean, we know that these systems are incredibly biased as well because they were trained primarily on white people's faces, white men. We know that they are more likely to misidentify women, gender nonconforming people, and people of color. So we can't, and yet we're rolling out all of these systems. It's really dangerous. In addition to that, I saw that Wegmans in New York is now storing biometric data on customers, not even customers, shoppers' eyes, voices, and faces. This was in Gothamist. Let me pull it. Okay. Um, so Wegmans, if you guys don't have Wegmans, it's basically a big grocery store that's really popular all over New York State, and now it's in New York City. But they've begun collecting biometric data from anyone who enters the supermarkets, which is terrifying. So anyone even just entering the store to go grab a seltzer or something could have data on their face, eyes, and voices collected and stored by the supermarket chain. They claim that, of course, this information is being used to protect the safety and security of patrons and employees. But that's not the case, of course. And what are they doing with this biometric data? Like, how is it being stored? Where is it being stored? What's the security measures in place to protect the data? Are they selling the data? Like, what are they using it for? Like, again, as Whitney was saying, like, this idea that you've got nothing to hide, or that they're just collecting this data for, just to have it, is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's dangerous. And I was sort of disturbed to see that in Wegmans. I think another really insidious use of data is for pricing. So we already know that you'll be in certain situations, you could be given different prices based on the data that they harvest on you. This is already true for delivery apps. So this was shown to be the case where, in certain neighborhoods, or if you're certain types of customers, depending on your usage patterns and behaviors, you'll get different prices on delivery apps or ride sharing apps, for instance. A price might show these apps might show a different price to you than your friend who's sitting right next to you, which already, again, because they're harvesting so much data on you, they're able to do that. So, you could imagine a world where Wegmans is harvesting all of this data and then using it to charge specific prices for specific people, or charge more in certain areas. Like, they're harvesting all this biometric data and they're linking that to your offline ID, and maybe linking it to your household income or your employment stuff. And they're like, once you connect a lot of this data that these people can harvest, you can just see that it can, like, the more they have, the more dangerous it is. And it reminded me as well of this other video that I saw just a couple days ago on this new price tag system in Walmart. Sorry, this shirt that I'm wearing underneath is killing me. Where basically Walmart has this new price tag system where prices change algorithmically based on supply and demand. And so you can see that they have these digital pricing systems. And you're going to notice when you are shopping in stores, like I don't know if Target has it yet, but a lot more of these big box retailers are having digital pricing on their stores now. So if you go into the store or if you look online, of course, they can target you that way, show you different prices online. Already, we know that airlines do this constantly. But, you can look here and see that it's changing based on, in this case, supply and demand. But you can easily imagine how they could just use all that other data that they're harvesting to change it based on who's currently walking the aisles, how busy the store is, like how just all of these different things that just like are designed to squeeze more and more dollars out of every one of us. Is there a requirement to post a sign if they're collecting biometric data at these stores? No, I don't believe so. I think that they are proactively doing that, but I don't think that there's any sort of requirement because a lot of these stores are already doing that through their security cameras and they don't require consent. Also, schools. I mean, you're constantly surveilled. We already have CCTV cameras and cameras like every 10 feet already. Yeah. I'm just like scrolling through some of the chat to make sure I didn't miss any comments. Unfortunately, face masks don't like. I mean, this was another reason why banning face masks is so fucked up and has absolutely nothing to do with privacy. Actually, your eyes are significantly more identifying. So if you really wanted to hide your identity, a face mask wouldn't be nearly as effective as wearing sunglasses. And of course, they're not banning sunglasses. So these people that are like, oh, we need to ban face masks for, privacy reasons or whatever. It's like facial recognition. You're not, look at Luigi Mangione, I mean, so that was just sort of like the capitalism stuff that I thought was relevant in terms of why you should not want to, buy into mass surveillance. There's also the policing aspect that Whitney mentioned. I saw this post about Palantir Gotham, which is software that was originally used for intelligence agencies being used to aggregate massive amounts of civilian data. And this post talks about things that, obviously still wear a mask because of COVID, guys, and just all respiratory viruses and air pollution. You should just be masking generally. That's like the least you should do right now in our dystopian hellscape. So this post talks about, what companies like Palantir, in this case, this Palantir product can do and how much information they can harvest off you. So they say with a single search, nameplate, et cetera, police officers can get your past address, known associates, vehicle movement via automated license plate readers. Those are those flock camera type things. Photos, tattoos, scars, prior arrest, field interviews, social media and financial data. Again, right now they have to subpoena that, but these laws would make it so that could be accessed much more easily. Algorithmic risk scores that flag people based on patterns. It's all very dystopian. A Pennsylvania court also recently said police can sift through Google searches. So basically, they can sift through Google searches to find suspects in crimes. And they're treating Google searches like bank records now, where they can just harvest a lot of them and use that as evidence against people in the court of law now. Where it's like, did you Google the wrong thing? Well, that could be used against you. And here, then we also have, in terms of facial recognition, this is something I want to talk about in Dallas because Dallas is expanding facial recognition to minor crimes, where basically this is how they sell this stuff to the public. They're considering a plan that would extend facial recognition searches to more routine offenses, expanding Clearview AI's use beyond serious crime. Clearview AI is terrible. It's like a Palantir-like company. It's also founded by this really evil guy. It's a mass data harvesting company that primarily does facial recognition. So they want to start using these facial recognition systems to catch like package thieves and more petty crime. Um, they have previously been using it, I guess, for more serious offenses. And Clearview AI scrapes all of this data from the public. They scrape all your social media stuff, whatever, and then they feed it into their systems. I just think that what was sort of insidious about this is that it's like people will go for it being like, well, I don't want my package. Oh, I hate I hate porch pirates. I hate, these people that come take my Amazon package. So yeah, if you can I'll put a Ring camera. I'm against all those surveillance things already, but now it's like they want to sort of expand it by selling it to the public as this like useful safety tool, when really that's not what biometric surveillance is about. It's not going to keep anybody safer. Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to think if I want to talk about this stuff next. Okay, I'll talk about one more thing because I've been talking so long and I didn't even get through like half my outline. But I don't even know if this live stream is interesting to anybody. I just could rant about this stuff forever. Sorry, I'm eating because I've been eating all day. Long story short, you do have something to lose. Like, you should care about privacy because I think Whitney made a good case in that video in the beginning, but you don't know what you've got till it's gone, in the sense of like, unless you've like, once we lose privacy rights, we're not going to get them back. And most of the ways you're being discriminated against, you'll never know. You'll never be able to prove. You'll never be able to like subpoena these companies or get any sort of justice. Your quality of life will be a little bit worse. You'll be forced to pay a little bit more at Walmart or at Wegmans or on your delivery app. Or yeah, you won't get that apartment building for some reason. You won't get a job for some reason. Your healthcare premiums might go up. Your car premiums might go up. Like, your life is just going to get a little bit worse, and maybe a lot of it worse. And you'll never be able to prove it. You'll never really be able to know, because it's ultimately all these like nameless, faceless algorithms and this data harvesting system that's just around you, surrounding you, discriminating against you, penalizing you for even like pre-crime, again, determining that you're a potential threat, blocking you from going into a store, blocking you from getting access to certain benefits, etc. And there's no transparency. None of these lawmakers want any sort of transparency. None of these lawmakers want to hold any of these companies accountable. So it's just too bad. It's just going to happen to you. And that's what it is. And so I just think we have to really fight these laws. So that's why you should care. And it's a stupid thing to be like, oh, I don't care. So what? Take my data. Everyone has my data. That data will be used against you. That data will be used against you. Like Whitney was saying, they don't just want it to have it. They don't just want it to put it in some library, some database somewhere. They want to use it. And the ways that they're using it are not going to be beneficial to your life.